Greetings to all in love and light of the one infinite creator. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups on the LNL website shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook page, and we do also meet on Zoom twice a week at the times shown on your screen. If you are interested in joining in any of our Zoom meetings or any future Q&As with Jim McCarty, or members of the LNL research channeling team, go ahead and contact us at the email address shown on your screen, and we'll add you to our mailing list, and we'd be delighted to see you. We do also have a YouTube channel you can go to look at recordings of previous Q&As. Feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to get notifications for future recordings. And if you look at the recording for each thing, you'll see a list of topics and timestamps below, and you can see if you can find something of interest to you. Otherwise, for today, we are blessed once again to be joined by our good friend, Mr. Jim McCarty, for some informal conversation and questions and answers about the law of one and how to live it. How are you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing well. It's been a good day to work some outside. Hopefully get ready for some rain.
Indeed, indeed. You had a homecoming not too long ago, and we got to meet some of the L&L friends as they come in, and did their coming home event on the West Coast fairly recently. Has your house recovered from the excitement?
Oh yeah, the house did fine. We didn't have any power for the last half day of it, but everybody gathered in here in the evening and by two lanterns and had a great time together till the wee hours of the morning.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, such a good time. And we had such a great time on the West Coast. And I know they still have the Prague events and the Philly events coming up next. So certainly encourage anyone who has not been able to attend one of those yet to check out the LNL research page, get on their mailing list, and you will be notified of future events. I have a feeling that I should have turned off the notifications on my computer, because I think if everyone else is hearing those tones, it's going to be a little bit annoying, and we will have to deal with that for now. Let's see. For now, Jim, I did have a couple questions to start off with. One involves fourth density light. If I understand correctly, fourth density light could be said to be more dense, more packed with truth. Is that correct?
I believe that's the way that Ra was using the term density. Each density is more dense in light and reveals more of the path of the seeker, the nature of the creator.
Indeed. And I guess this might seem like a stupid question, but I'm not really all that clear. Is fourth density light coming from our sun, or is it coming from outside our solar system, or is it coming from both? Where exactly would this fourth density light be coming from?
That's a really good question. I don't think Ra ever mentioned exactly where it came from. I think, and this is my opinion, that that light of the fourth density in all of the densities is always available, but it is the consciousness of the planetary population that is on the planet at that time activated that can perceive one light or another. So it is up to the spiritual seeker or the social memory complex to be able to perceive that light. Now, I'm also thinking that maybe since those of the fourth density and above do not have the veil of forgetting, they might be able to perceive more light of the higher densities, but not be able to use it yet because the fourth density has a certain level of what you would say the density of light that offers a spiritual seeker the opportunity to use it. But that's just a guess because that was never covered in the raw content. Way to go. 2,600 questions we asked, and you got one we didn't ask.
Well, it's funny because I mean, it did only occur to me somewhat recently, and I was just surprised to realize I have no idea what the answer was, because I think I'm aware that our sun does exist in all densities. I'm aware that there have been made many references to fourth density vibrations washing over our planet. And I
Right.
guess in my mind, I sort of envisioned our entire solar system, our entire galaxy moving into some part of space time and time space where we are all engulfed in fourth density vibrations, but I don't know if it's just maybe coming from our sun.
Well, I think our sun does send out, all the light that is available through all the densities. But like I said, it's very likely that you have to be able to perceive that light, be able to use it according to your own spiritual unfoldment. But
Indeed.
that's just an opinion.
Yeah, indeed. And I appreciate your sharing that. I guess I have another somewhat beginner boneheaded question, and that is just in terms of our sun being a sublogos. Would it be accurate to refer to our sun as a sublogos or a sub-sublogos?
I believe Ra referred to our sun as a sublogos. And we, as third density beings, are sub-logoi.
That makes sense. So would you say that our sublogos is just our solar system, the immediate celestial bodies that are affected directly by our sun? Or how far beyond our sun would you say our logos goes?
Well, again, this is my opinion. I believe that our logos, our sublogos, and a logos, any logos or sublogos anywhere, can have its vibrations of light be perceived in the distant realms of the infinite creation, because all is the creator. The various sublogoi, such as you and I, have limited ability to perceive those vibrations. So that is our spiritual journey, to be able to go further and further in our perception of the higher densities, in the seeming separation from the creator, until we are in the eighth density, united with the creator, and we are all one. We know all and feel all of the densities.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to dig into that a little deeper, perhaps, and I have some other questions might want to ask. Otherwise, I do see some questions in the chat window, so I want to go ahead and get started on those. And did want to encourage anybody who is on the Zoom call right now, if you have a question you would like to ask Jim, feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat window, and we'll go in the order that we see them. Aram, I believe I saw your question first. Would you like to go ahead and ask? Are you there, Aram? If she is, she might be a little busy right now. How about Raquel? Did you have a question, Raquel?
I did. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Nice to see everybody. Hi, Jim. Nice to see you. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Just a quick thing. Jonathan Aram said if you could ask her question for her. So I don't know if you want to do that before I proceed or after.
I'll do it after. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Jim, I'm going to ask you a question, but I think it's technically for Quo or recently I read the Channel 5 Quetzalcoatl channeling, and in it was about how the negative path that we and the people in the power and the elites right now, that we need to really pray for them, because they're like our brothers and sisters that are trapped in a dungeon and there's barely any light getting in, except when like we offer them love and light and prayer. And my question really is, as I try to understand and see everyone as the creator and have love for the, understanding and love for the negative path as well, if they have a life review like how we do, right? When we leave this planet and they have a life review, how come they don't make different choices when they come back? Because they can see, okay, this isn't working for me. I've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years and I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm in darkness basically, and I'm not progressing even in the polarity they've chosen, because that's what Quetzalcoatl said. It's that they're just continuously reincarnating and doing this over and over and over again. And I'm just trying to understand, do they have a life review like we do? And can they see that, hey, this isn't working, let me change something in this? Do they have the options like the service to others path does, is basically my question.
What I believe Quetzalcoatl was talking about was entities that are in positions of power in various incarnations who have behaved in what is approaching the negative polarity, but they have not yet been successful in achieving that, because if they had achieved that, they would leave the fourth density and go on to the fifth density. and continue their progression of dominating others and separating themselves from others. But these entities, I believe, have not yet made that choice. So that is why the prayers might be helpful. And when they leave one incarnation and are going through the review, they do see that. And if they are positively oriented, then they attempt to make some sort of change. If they are negatively oriented, they would probably see something different, as the higher self is what helps us to go through the healing and review of the incarnation. And the first separation from others is the separation from the self, the higher self. So I think that these entities may or may not have made that choice. And if they have not made that choice, prayers would help. If they have made that choice, that would probably not help, because they are making a choice of free will and they know everything that they need to know to make that choice. But most of the entities of third density don't know that. So I think that mostly what Quetzalcoatl was talking about was entities that are on that path, but maybe not consciously choosing it. So prayers could help them
Help
make
them. It's kind of
another
like they're
choice.
stuck in the sinkhole of indifference, basically, without really polarizing towards a particular polarity.
Right. It's just going along with the general nature of the third density illusion, which is confusion.
Yes. And it really just touched my heart because I felt like they were just roaming in the desert for, millions and millions of years lost. And I just, I think we should all pray and just send as much love and light towards them as possible because, you know, we're all in this together basically. And so they need our love and light. And I just felt it. I don't know. That really touched my heart there. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention it. Thank you so much for your perspective. It actually opened up my understanding.
Thank you for your question, and I'm sure they thank you for your prayers.
Thank you.
Indeed. I do see Aram's question. Let me go ahead and read it to you, Jim. Aram says, I believe my child is, whoops, it just disappeared off the screen. All right. I believe my child is dual activated. I'm homeschooling him because the school system seems mired in third density. Does the Confederation have opinions or advice on how to raise a dual activated child in late third, early fourth density?
Well, I believe Raw suggested that any child, whether dual activated or not, but especially dual activated, would benefit by being a part of whatever type of prayer or service or worship that the family has. If they don't have one, then to form one, so that the child could be invited to join when it felt it was appropriate. So there would be an opportunity for the child to exercise that increased beingness, increased awareness that dual activation has, or which any child has for wanting to know how things work, because children are very inquisitive. And if you can help them direct their energies towards a spiritual path, then you might have aided them in a way that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Aram, I believe, is driving right now, so she might not be able to engage anymore in the conversation, but I hope that answers her question enough for now. Jim, do you think it would be fair to say that more or less every child born at this time in 2024 is dual activated to some extent?
If not dual activated, at least high on the priority list of those senior souls that have, a chance of making the graduation. They suggested that there is that kind of leveling of abilities that the senior souls, the older souls that have had these experiences, who still have a chance to make the graduation or the harvest, are those who get the first chances of being on the planet and attempting to make the harvest, going through the veil of forgetting with that great desire to make the attempt at harvesting, of being of service to others or service to self.
That's what they refer to as seniority of vibration, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I think I was just reading a session not too long ago. We were talking about indigo children in our study group the other day. And I believe we were looking at some sessions where Quo was making references to so many children being born now who are what they call indigo children, who most, if not all, apparently graduated from third density either on Earth or on another planet,
Right.
and rather than continue with their fourth density studies, decided actually come back to Earth and to help in the transition.
Right. They see all the difficulties we're having here on the planet as being a great opportunity to be of service, to help resolve the difficulties, to be part of the experiencing of the Creator and sharing that.
What a great act of love. Yeah, something I think we can all help out in our own ways. Let's see, I'm going to go back to the chat window, and I believe, Shirley, you had a question?
Yes. Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everybody. Hi, Jim, for giving us this opportunity to ask you questions. My question is about understanding of the critical mass. Basically, my question is like, let me just look at, if we reach the critical mass of harvestable entities, will that accelerate the whole Earth population to raise their consciousness so that they can also be harvested?
I think that as each person becomes more enlightened as to what they're here for and decides to make the choice of service to others, then the critical mass is that which is the addition, the doubling effect, so that as more and more people make that choice, that doubling effect increases the power of the choice so that other people might also make the choice. And that is something we're always hoping for. And by being able to use all of the catalyst that is available on the planet now, that could be done. But there is also, it is a kind of a potential stopping block to see all of this anger and confusion and separation with each other. So it could go either way. So we just have to do the best we can. I think prayer is one way of doing it, making your choice and serving others to the best of your ability, and just being positively oriented and going forward, and hoping and having faith that this is possible. As Ra said, I think in 6512, could your planet polarize in one fine, strong moment of inspiration? Yes, my friends, it is ever possible, though it is not probable.
It's one of my favorite passages. Did you have any follow-up questions on that, Shirley?
Not now.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. Thanks for being here. Joel, you had a question? All right there, Joel. You will have to unmute your mic if you're speaking. And we will see if we can get back to Joel on that. How about Elaine? Did you have a question?
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Elaine.
Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
I enjoy your Camelot journal, and good luck with replanting the flowers for the deer over and over. You're growing them a salad bar.
Yes, I am.
a beautiful one. Here's my question. I'll just read it. Do psychic attacks or psychic greetings come only from discarnate beings, or can incarnate other selves psychically attack another self, whether unintentionally or intentionally?
Well, to my knowledge, psychic greetings or attacks would only come from discarnate entities of the fourth density or above, because those of the third density who have not yet made that choice might wish to do so, but would not be able to do so. But I could be wrong about that. There are, apparently, according to Ra, both on the inner planes, and there are those who unconsciously on the outer planes here in our space-time environment are on that negative path. They haven't made the graduation yet, but there could be some that have the power to make psychic greetings. Ra suggested that when other negatively oriented entities of higher densities make contact with these entities, they kind of have a gamble, because if the negative entity on the third density is strong enough in its power, it may bid the higher density negative entity to do its wishes. So, so it would be possible,
Wow.
but I think that would be unusual, but possible.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you. Let's see. Joel is at work, so I can read his question for him, if you don't mind, Jim. Joel is asking, did your group realize the raw channeling was profound right away? How did it affect your growth as an individual while going through the process of creating the books?
Well, I believe Don realized it right away because he was in that session. I was not in the first session. I was out shopping for groceries. And so I walked in and interrupted the raw contact. And I believe at question number 9, where Ra said they had to deepen the instrument's consciousness or focus. And after that session was over, Don came to me in a very excited state. He said, could you transcribe this session now? And I said, now? He said, yes, this is what we've been waiting for 19 years. This is it. And so I said, okay, whatever you say. So I started transcribing it. And as I went along, it didn't take too long for me to discover this was an amazing contact. This was much unlike anything we'd ever seen before.
Indeed. Yeah, I can't imagine what it must have been like to be in the room at that moment. But yeah, not surprising. It would not take long to figure out something really special was there. Especially just reading the opening words of that first session. That would be, yeah, words fail me. Claudel has a question, but Claudel is not able to read it out loud as well. I feel like I'm reading letters to Santa Claus or something. Jeez Louise. Claudel says, question for Jim. Any specific benefit on having a past life or multiple past life regression? It's not clear which part of it might be useful versus might be cheating or piercing the veil, and thus maybe nullify the whole point of not remembering.
I think that a past life regression could be helpful if you intuitively feel it's helpful. So some people can be easily regressed and some people can't be. So it would be really up to the person. If it is supposed to happen and you're supposed to be regressed, then it would probably occur. And then you could look at the information you got from the hypnotherapist that asked you questions and the responses that you gave and the experiences you had, and just use your own intuition to feel what was right, and how it might be helpful, how it might be a part of a puzzle that you could put together.
You never had one? Never really thought about having one?
No, Don and I were both unable to be hypnotized, so there wasn't any regressions possible for us.
Bummers. Would have been interesting. But you did both actually try?
Yeah.
Interesting. And Carla?
Carla, I'm not sure if she had a regression or not. I don't think she did. Not to my memory. Yeah.
No, I think one of the things that has really struck me about reading various channelings from our friends in the Confederation is how often the word unique comes up, how they really respect the uniqueness of every single soul, every single soul's journey, and that what is appropriate for one might not necessarily be appropriate for others or vice versa. So seems like the same thing applies here, would you say?
I think so, yeah.
Linda, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, Jim, we have here at our place transcripts from a regression that Carla went through.
Oh, yeah?
Same, yeah, we'll make sure you get that. This is the same guy that regressed Morris and Beth and Sally.
Oh, Larry Ellison?
Yes.
And
okay.
so Carla it was all 4 of them that were done.
Okay. Do you know what year?
Carla's initial regression that identified Sally and Beth initially. And then I was regressed without hearing their stories so they could get a feeling about how real the message was they were getting.
Okay, that's starting to ring a bell. Do you
That
remember
was all in 75, 76.
Okay, that was a long time before I met Carla. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think I've heard about that. I think I heard
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, where she used to go down to different planets and assist other planets with evolving through
Yeah.
shamans and all those other things. That was her job on the planet that they were on.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you like us to send you that transcript?
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Okay, great. We'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And 2 points for the assist from Morris and Linda Hoagland. Nice. For our viewers who didn't know this, Morris Hoagland is vice president on the board of L&L Research and has been vice president on the board of L&L Research for 40 plus years. Old friend of Jim's and Don's and Carla's, and was involved with the Raw group from the beginning. L&L group.
Ever since there was a board.
Whatever that was. Yeah, hey, there's another good question. How long did it take you guys to make a board of directors, a nonprofit organization out of this? Actually, now that I mentioned it, I am somewhat curious. How many years did it take before you actually got to that point of organizational?
I think it was, to my knowledge, if you can correct me, Morris, it was within the first year. We discovered that it would be helpful to be incorporated as a nonprofit organization, because before that, Carl and Don were just, I think they were the L&L group.
It was actually formed in 1981, and it was using your Rock Creek
right
platform to create
right
Creek
yeah
nonprofit, 1981.
Yeah.
And Rock Creek was the nonprofit that was kind of an extension of the wilderness awareness.
Yeah, the Adventure Trail Survival School that I went to in 1972 and 73 was incorporated in that way. And T.D. Lingo was the head of that school, and he gave me the basic outline to use. So I created the Rock Creek Research and Development Laboratories, doing business as LL Research, as a result of what he gave me to use. So that was how it all worked out.
Yeah, and what a fascinating part of your journey that was, that whole part, which I know you have talked about before, and if folks want to ask about it again, they can do it here. Otherwise, I do see some other questions in the chat window, so forgive me if I'm having a hard time keeping track of it, but I do see a person named T who has a question next. That will be followed by Neely, followed by Tom, followed by Adam, and if there's anyone else who has a question, I will check again. T, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Hey, that's me. I'm not sure why it came up T instead of Tara, but I am on my work computer, so maybe that's part of it. Can you explain how the harvest presents? I actually got into a horrific argument with my husband just trying to broach the subject with him. And I was trying to parallel that I think this is what the Bible talks about when it talks about separating the wheat and the chaff, and those who are neither hot nor cold, but they're lukewarm and they'll be spit out. And I think that's people that have not made their choice to polarize. But when I was trying to convey to him the urgency of consciously making that choice, because these cycles do end and you do miss windows of opportunity to graduate and continue. And it started a horrific and unnecessary battle at home. But can you explain to the best of your knowledge how the harvest will present? Is it a tangible event here on Earth? Does it happen when we die and then we transition at the point of death? Just any feedback you could offer on to help my understanding of that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. Ross suggested back in 1981 that the harvest had been going on for some time and was going on then, and is still going on now. And what happens is that when you drop your body, and the body is the only thing that dies, then you walk into the light. And the light is presented to us by those from the octave above our own. They're the light bringers. And so when you walk into the light, the violet ray of your brain or chakra is examined, shall we say, or measured to determine your harvestability, whether your heart has been opened, whether the lower chakras are evenly balanced, and whether you've made the choice of service to others at least 51% of the time. So once that has been determined, then you step And the way that's determined is that as you walk into the light, it becomes too glaring for you to take. So you step aside. And if all of that is true about what I just said, 51% of the time, and the balance of the lower centers, then you have graduated or made the harvest into the fourth density of love and understanding.
Okay. If you don't at the time of death, does that mean you are trapped in another 25,000 year incarnational cycle before you can?
Not necessarily. Ross suggested that it is hard to determine exactly the length of our third density environment because there's so much dissension and anger and confusion, so that it was anywhere from 100 to 700 more years. So
Okay.
you could
That's a relief.
reincarnate and try again. Because if you are close to graduation or harvest, then that seniority of vibration that Jonathan mentioned earlier would be the factor that would allow you to come back in another incarnation and make another effort.
I think that explains a sense of urgency I have felt my whole life, not knowing what it was for or why it mattered. But thank you. That's tremendously helpful.
Well, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
One follow-up question on that, Jim. I think your answer was predicated on the assumption that if somebody died today, then they would still have some 100 years or so when they could reincarnate on Earth. But just theoretically, suppose that person passed away after the official harvest time on planet Earth had passed and Earth was no longer available for third density incarnations. Would that person who was really close to graduation this time have to start over at the beginning of a 75 or 50 or 25,000 year cycle on another planet, or could they conceivably, well, where if a person would conceivably be really close to harvesting, is there any, where do you think in the cycles of another planet might they incarnate? At what stage?
Well, I think that the most important thing would be that they would have the ability to choose another planet, another third density planet, to make that attempt again to make the harvest. Whether it's at the beginning or the end of the 75,000 year cycle might not matter, because if they're really close to the harvest, they may need only one more incarnation.
So that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Let's see, Neely, I believe you had a question next, followed by Tom, followed by Adam.
Yes, I did. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Good evening. I love your glasses.
Thank you. So my question kind of relates a little bit to what was asked before. We had a very minor discussion on the Facebook group about the elections, and some other cells reflected upon the fact that potentially both sides of the aisle are STS, service to self, those power elite. And that brought up the question of whether voting for the lesser evil be the right thing to do, because you have to make a stand and you have to be part of what is happening here on 3D Earth. And you want to try to the best of your ability to influence for the better of your other selves. Or will abstaining from voting altogether because you realize the game is rigged and you don't want to take part of this game, like playing into the hands of either STS entity that wants to be in control. So I guess from this convoluted opening, my question would be, would you depolarize if you are service to others? Would you depolarize if you do not make a stand and vote? Or will you depolarize by voting for somebody who's obviously service to self?
Well, I think Ross suggested that those who are in positions of power or seeking power are good examples of those who could be of a negative orientation. But there are differences. Sometimes I think Franklin Roosevelt was given as an example of one who was very positively polarized up until a certain point when he exercised too much desire for gaining power, and then his paralysis set in as a kind of a balancing act. So I think the most important thing, and this is again my opinion, is what your intention is when you vote. or if you don't vote. If you feel that you can be of most service by voting or not voting, then that would be the way for you to go. The intention to be of service, however you can be, is the most important thing.
That's a great question. Any follow-ups on that, Neely?
No, it made a lot of sense. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for your question.
Indeed. Tom, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yes. Hi, Jim.
Hi.
You answered my question last week about my cat, so I appreciated that. That helped the family a lot. But this week I was curious just about how you all came to understand during the Ra channelings that when Ra was saying you were, that some of maybe the chalice was misaligned or some of those other items. Like, how did you figure that out? That you were being guided towards like maybe a more direct line of conversation about spirituality, as opposed to maybe some other lines of questioning?
Well, there were a couple of instances where Ra would comment upon the accoutrements or the appurtenances that we use, the chalice being one of them. And they happened to say something, well, the chalice is 2/10 of a degree out of alignment. We thought, how in the world can you change 2/10 of a degree? That's not possible. That has to have some other meaning. So that's when we discovered they were talking not about the alignment, physical alignment of the chalice or the Bible or the candle or the incense, but by our line of questioning. So they couldn't tell us outright not to ask questions that were of a transient nature or of a fearful nature, but they could let us know if we had asked those, here's a hint, figure it out. You're smart.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Yeah. So what's it like being like pranked by a 6th density social memory complex? Is it funny? Did you get it?
Well, yeah, we finally got it. We realized that Ra had a sense of humor that was sometimes a little bit opaque, a little bit hard to figure out, but we kept working at it.
Yeah, that's great. And they're one level above Latwii, who has a notorious cosmic sense of humor, for sure.
Yeah, that was for sure for Latwii.
Indeed. Let's see. I am not actually seeing any other questions in the chat window. So if there's anyone else who has a question to ask, go ahead, put it in there, because we have time enough left for at least 1 or 2 questions. And in the meantime, Jim, I did have a question for you about negative time space and space time. I believe it was in session 90 that Ra famously noted that this logos has a bias toward kindness, which is a especially encouraging thing to hear given how cruel and unkind the world often appears to be, apparently by design through the archetypical mind. But there was also a session later where they said, I think in session 91, and yes, I'm reading from my notes, there are logoi which have offered a neutral background against which to polarize. And just recently, a couple months ago in February 2024, Quo noted that in other logoic systems, there are other options, including a more unbiased template within which the workings of confusion may unfold, along with the potential for bias in the other direction. So are you interpreting that the same way as I am, which is that there are, in fact, logoi which are actually biased towards service to self rather than service to others?
Not, well, again, this is my opinion. I'm familiar with that session. I think what Quo was saying was that there are other logoi that are neutral in their non-bias, and this allows a more negative harvest or polarity to be experienced. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, I think it's what they said after that. They said a more unbiased template within which the workings of confusion may hold, comma, along with the potential for bias in the other direction, which to me sounds like bias towards service to self or negative. I guess I was thinking of that partly because, reflecting on the ongoing challenges from that fifth density Orion entity who was trying to mislead Carla while she was in trance into negative time space, and the implications that she would at some point eventually have to incarnate on a negative planet in negative space time, or at least the higher self was going to have to figure out whether that would be acceptable or not. So I guess I was thinking a negative planet and negative space time would kind of correlate to logos that's has a bias towards service to self.
It could be, or negative planets or negative entities can make their choice in the one that we're in with the bias towards kindness.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly thankful that I'm looking at the logos with a bias towards kindness, because I sure as heck would not want to live in a logos that's biased towards cruelty, where if it's like the mirror image of this logos, it's like all appears to be well and all appears that it will be well, but in reality, it's going to be crap in the end, and you're going to get screwed in the end. It really does not sound like a great place to evolve. But
well,
I guess I'm just thinking if the creator, the one infinite creator, really wants to explore all the possibilities of existence, then I would think it would probably have to go that far in the opposite direction too, at least as an experiment.
Well, everything would help the creator to know itself, whether it was positive or negative. And I've always thought that, when the negative entities of social memory complex get into the beginning of the sixth density, they discovered that they cannot go any further because they've separated themselves from each other. And the sixth density blends love and wisdom. So they have to change their polarity and become positive. And I've always thought, then they are positive and they have helped the creator to know itself through negative polarity for all those millions of years. And now they're positive. So they're giving two ways, two massive ways for the creator to know itself.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that came up in a discussion a while ago, where the question was, if Carla was a fifth or sixth density positive wanderer originally, would she automatically flip over to fifth or sixth density negative, or would she have to start all over at third density and like have to do the whole thing over again? And I think Ross suggested fairly clearly that would be going from fifth density positive to fifth density negative, or vice versa.
Yeah, the creator has no bias against the positive or negative. Each is seen as the path to the creator. So she would, or anybody would be able to be the same density. You don't have to start over any. You could just, because the power is the same.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think I was only confused because I was thinking if somebody had gone straight from third to fourth to fifth to sixth density negative, man, they had to have their heart chakra closed off that whole time, right? So I was just thinking that for somebody to get to fifth, sixth density positive, they had to be working with the open heart the whole time. So I was just thinking it would be really difficult to flip from that to closed heart.
And I can't imagine how that would happen, actually. If Carla had been forced into going to fifth density or sixth density negative, and not lose her positive polarity in having to be what they were there. She'd have to follow the negative path. Ross said it would turn out well, but I never have understood how it would turn out well. How could she positively remain any positivity if she had to be in a negative path? She had to blend in with where she was. She would have to become a negative entity. So
that's what I was thinking.
I've never understood that.
No, unfortunately, never had to either. That is, it's hard to imagine anything more freakishly nightmarish than that. And yet, she apparently was not, that did not deter her from forging onward, even knowing that was a possibility.
Nothing would stop her from being of service to the creator. No threat. No fearless. Potential harm.
Totally fearless. Yeah, what a beautiful soul. What a beautiful spirit. Thank you, Carla, who I assume is listening or watching this at some point and is with Jim all the time and many others. Love you so much. Let's see, Michael, I believe you had a clarification question. I think I saw your hand up. Did you still want to ask your question before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, no, it was really that was the question I was going to ask, and I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to ask it the whole session. Was session 68? Was how did Carla react to that once she found out the enormity of what could happen with what she was trying to do, if that halted her at all, or if she stopped to consider it. But then it was really just answered for me, kind of just now. So,
Right. Yeah. No, that didn't bother her.
yeah.
Rod did give us some ways of being sure that that wouldn't happen. One of them was to hold her hand so she couldn't get, during our public channeling, conscious channeling sessions, so she couldn't get into the deeper states of meditation where she would go into trance and maybe leave her body. So that was one thing. And the other thing was during the conscious channeling sessions, she was not supposed to take any questions because that was what got her into trouble in the first place. When she was asked a question, she thought to herself, I don't know the answer to that at all. I wish I was channeling Ra. And that was, her will was strong enough. That was all that was necessary for her to start to leave her body. And fortunately, Latwii was able to keep talking or keep channeling through her while she was amalgamated back into her body. But as Ross said, it came perilously close to breaking the law of free will.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Any follow-ups on that, Michael?
No, none. Thank you a lot, Jim.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for your great questions today. I don't believe there are, I think I saw another question in the chat window. Someone named S. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask your question? And we're going to call that the last question for today. Are you there, S? I'm not seeing your name.
Hi. This is my name actually is Eddie, and the reason we put S is because it's my wife and myself listening in and watching. So I've been thinking about this question a lot, and I thought this would be appropriate to ask it to Jim directly. And actually, it's a two-part question. One is, when Ra refers to the creator, the infinite creator, the reason I'm asking this, in my prayers, like I mentioned God because of my spiritual tradition. So when I think about it, is it the equivalent to God in spiritual traditional religions, or is it something different? When they talk about, yeah.
It's the same thing. The creator, a God, the spirit, the presence. Different religions have different names for it. All seem to be aware that there is such an energy or an entity, and that basically all the major religions have that same feeling in their mystical aspects, that we're all part of the creator, and the creator is getting to know itself through our free will choices as we move back into unity from our seeming separation. So I think that's the case, that everything is a creator, all is a creator. We're all helping each other to realize that we are the creator and moving together, hopefully, in a social memory complex eventually.
That's thank you for answering that. One explanation that I've heard, I don't know if that will resonate with you, is whatever you think God, that's not it. Whatever you think.
Yeah, if you think you can define it, it's not it. It can't be described in words. It's beyond words. We just use words as placeholders.
Yeah. So
That's
my other question is, which is somewhat related. I've come across ritual traditions which talk about God manifesting in human form, as a form, not as in flesh and blood, at one point. And I didn't find any reference to that in Ra content. So any thoughts about that, whether through Ra or any other channelings about that concept?
I think, no, Ra didn't really talk about that, but I think what is being talked about is those entities that have had what you might call the illumination or enlightenment experience, where Jesus, for example, I think that there are many types of entities such as Jesus who are one with the one great original thought of love or the creator. And they manifest that through their life by the way they live the life. And so I think most religious traditions have examples of beings of that nature. And the Christian tradition has Jesus as an example.
All right.
I think Buddha
Well,
is probably another example.
Thanks for your questions, Eddie. Is that it? Did you have any more?
Yeah, that would be it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
For the record, I believe in the Tao Te Ching. In Eastern philosophy, they said the Tao that can be described as not the Tao. It's definitely an old idea for sure. Great questions, though, Eddie. Appreciate it. Michelle, did you have a clarification?
Yeah, a clarification, because my question is similar. Jim, love listening to you read the raw material and all of the books they record. I love it. And my question is, why does the creator need to know itself?
Well, that is a good question. We're going to have to ask the creator. I think any conscious entity would like to know more about itself. We all have that same impulse. It's a seed that I think the creator plants in us to help it know itself. I think that the creator has been through one octave after another, getting to know more and more about itself. And this is just my opinion. I think it is a great experience for it to know what it is like for it to be us. And for every free will choice we make adds more knowledge to the creator about what it is. And also, it gives us a chance to know more about the creator and what we are. And so it's a kind of a win-win situation. I don't think there could be a better situation. So
Yeah,
I think that's, it's the perfect situation.
it's beautiful. And free will, I think, is a gift. That was lovely. I love your answer. That's
Well,
great.
thank you for the question.
Simple and to the heart and to the thirst.
Great
Thank you,
question.
Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, Jim. Thanks again for your time here. I believe we are pretty much at the end of our hour today. And yet, as you well know, Jim, we have invited you here not just to answer questions, but also for a little pop quiz, just to add a little bit of light and laughter and levity to our otherwise extremely serious discussions about metaphysics and spirituality and ethics and all that good stuff. So we all know that you love to garden, but the question is, how much do you know about the history of the second density entities known as flowers? I'm going to ask you 3 questions about flowers. Let's see how many you can guess correctly. The points, of course, don't matter. If you had fun, you won. And those of you on Zoom, if you want, you can put your answers in the chat window. Those of you watching on YouTube later, you can say your answers out loud, just like Dora the Explorer. Jim, are you ready to start?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Here's your first question. Which flowers were once worth more than gold? Was it A, roses, B, tulips, or C, orchids?
C, orchids.
Orchids would make a lot of sense, but the correct answer is tulips, of all things.
Tulips.
Yeah, even though tulips are considered pretty commonplace now, apparently back in the 1600s in the Netherlands, they were considered to be like really rare and exotic because they were from the Middle East, had bright colors.
I should have known that because most of my tulips died out. I only have 2 left in my gardens.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
They're perennials. They're perennials, but somehow mine died out, all but 2.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Have you grown orchids? They are supposedly, I think those can be pretty picky too, can't they?
Yeah, no, I've never grown an orchid.
Roses?
Oh, yeah. Years ago, I had what was known as, there was a Jackson Perkin type of roses, which are real roses, but I had what were called knockout roses, and they were supposedly lots easier to grow, but I didn't have enough sunshine in my area where I grew them, so I planted giant perennial hibiscus instead.
Well, there you go. Well, that is a good segue into our second question, which is about roses. Where were roses first cultivated? Was it A, Asia, B, Africa, or C, the Americas?
Asia.
That is correct. Were you just guessing, or did you know that already?
Well, I'm just guessing.
That's pretty
Everything's,
good.
I've never known anything you've asked me, Jonathan.
I am trying to find questions that no normal person would be expected to know, even one who gardens a lot. And I only know these because I researched them in advance. Apparently, cultivation of roses in gardens is believed to have begun about 5,000 years ago in
Wow.
China. And it wasn't until the 18th century that they were introduced to Europe. So if you did a past life regression far back enough, any idea what plants you might have been in previous incarnations in your soul stream?
Would probably be a dahlia.
Oh, wow. Nice. Why is that?
Because I love dahlias. Or a snapdragon. Right? Snapdragon would be good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, dahlias, beautiful flowers, and snapdragons. Yeah. How about animals? Do you have any inkling of what animals you might have been in previous incarnations?
A lion.
Nice. Nice. You would be the nicest lion anybody has ever met. Swear to God. Unless they piss you off.
Really nice lion.
Yeah.
When-
But you wouldn't want to mess with them. Yeah.
When Carl and I went to pick up who eventually became Dandelion and Chloe back in 2006, on the way home from the place where we got them, Carla asked Dandelion what his name was. He said, "I'm a lion." So he became Dan D. Lion.
Oh, that's adorable. So just out of curiosity, what is it about lions that you identify with? I don't think I would have guessed that if I was going to guess.
What movie company had the lion?
Oh, MGM.
Yeah, when I went as a kid, I went to the movies. My dad had a grocery store, and my mom worked there with him. And on Saturday nights, I would go across the street to the Majestic Theater, and they would have this lion that started the show. So I thought, wow, that's cool.
That is very cool indeed. Well, your whole life has been a lion roar, my friend, for sure. Your third question is not multiple choice. It is an essay question. For all who have ears to hear, tell us why gardening is for you such a great way to practice the law of one. There are no incorrect answers on this.
Oh, you mean I get a correct answer out of it? I love to garden because it gives me a chance to work with Mother Earth and the way that she can help flowers and bushes and trees express the love of the Creator for our planet and for me, and that I can give them love, and that actually the very best fertilizer is love. And if you give the love to the plant, I finished my planting with saying, grow, 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 grow. I love you. I love you. So gardening is just a way to practice the giving of love without any expectation of return. I'd say, Mother Earth, do your thing. Do your thing. I know you can do it. And I had a good example of that. I had what's called arrowhead vine that you may have seen when you were here before. And it was over in the corner of the room. It was a beautiful being. But for some reason, starting last August, it began losing leaves and losing vines, and it deteriorated to where it only had a couple leaves and vines left. So I cut those off and put them in water and got another plant going called Glorietta. She's over in the corner right now. She's doing well. But I took Gloria, is what I call this plant, outside and put her on a bench next to the driveway. And I said, I had tried everything. I had repotted her 3 times. I had pulled out what I saw were dead roots, but still nothing worked. And so I set her out there and I said, I'm going to let Mother Nature take over. And so now, I guess it was all the rain. I never knew if it was too much water or too little water, but the rain or Mother Nature has brought Gloria back. She now has 33 leaves and is beginning a vine. And so that is something that I thought was a beautiful example of Mother Nature doing her work when I couldn't get it done.
Wow. What a beautiful sharing. What a beautiful answer. I'm sorry, that's not the correct answer, but it is.
You promised me I would have the right answer.
The correct answer was Pepsi Zero, I think. I don't know. That's great.
Well, that's a great answer.
Yeah, it's always, I know it's your favorite, so it's always the right answer. Well, you have done it again, my friend. You've wasted another perfectly good hour of your incarnation farting around with the Seattle Law of One study group. You could have been outside gardening. You could have been inside meditating, having orgasms in your third eye. But no, here you are with us, and we will be eternally grateful for that. Do you have any last thoughts or reflections you'd like to share before we part ways?
So you could call me Jim McCarty, right?
Did anyone call you that in grade school? I'm surprised if no one thought of that already.
No, I call myself that when those events occur.
That's good.
Oh, well, as always, it's been a joy to be here with you. It always is a joy, you know. I mean, what else can I say when people ask me questions that bring out some sort of an answer that is the best I've got to offer? Gives me a chance to grow with you as you are growing with hopefully the answers I give you. We all help each other grow. This is the way that works in third density. And hopefully we've got a little social memory complex going here that will help other people to make this choice of love and service to others. This is why we're here. And thank you for being part of that journey for me. And I hope I've been that part of a journey for you.
You have planted many beautiful seeds among so many souls, my friend, and can't wait to see them germinate and grow for years and years to come. Thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. Thank you to all our friends at Eleanor Research for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. Thank you everyone for joining us on the Zoom call. It's a larger group than ever. Folks on YouTube might not know, but had a great group here. Thank you for all you've done, continue to do in service to others. When we stop recording, we are actually going to continue through the second hour of discussion and let Jim get back to his gardening. So anyone who wants to stick around is welcome to. Otherwise, those of you watching on YouTube at some other nexus in space, time, and time space, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We love you too. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator, Adonai, namaste.
Love you all. Have a great night, or in your area. I guess
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Oh, my pleasure. What a cute dog you got there.
Thank you, Jim.